Aloha. Interesting internet connectivity situation. It is Wednesday, the 23rd of September. Wednesday is ruled by Mercury. Today, according to the Mayan dream spell, it is a Svadhisthana or sacral chakra day. So if you're going to be doing stuff with your chakras, do all your chakras obviously always, but focus a little more on the sexual and creative elements of your sacral chakra, Svadhisthana. Do the mantras. In this case, this would be Vam, and do the mudras, right? Today in the galactic calendar, the Mayan dream spell calendar I've got, Wednesday, September 23rd is White Solar Mirror guided by timelessness. So let's go ahead and pull some cards. I've already had a very interesting morning. Kind of doing my thing. Aw, the inside of this book just ripped, and now it's holding on by threads, so that's always cool. The binding job isn't that solid, I guess. Let's go ahead and pull some cards. Hopefully you all are doing well. It's a beautiful day. The sun is in Libra, the moon is in Sagittarius, Mercury is in Libra, Venus is in Leo, and Mars is in Aries. So we've got a whole lot of air and fire going on. You might be noticing that in your relationships, in your mind, you might be very passionately thinking about whatever. It's an interesting moment, right? So let's go ahead and pull a card. We've got the Hierophant. So this is about masculine spiritual truth. Exoteric truth, truth that's being shown to us from without. Esoteric truth would be this feminine kind of high priestess energy, inner reality. This is more external, right? This is more true from an outside perspective, like religion and stuff like that, right? So let's go ahead and look at this major arcana. And I love the art. I mean, this is a cool little infinite ball of whatever, if you could see it. Yeah. Cool shit. All right, so the Hierophant it is. It's the High Priest card. And with Libra Sun and Sagittarius Moon, this is very fitting. It's like, I'm going to, in a calm way, express the truth, right? Sagittarius is about truth with a capital T, where the moon is. Hierophant, the High Priest, caretaker of spiritual knowledge, teaching others what you know, awakening to a greater understanding of the world, and paying attention to the details. The Hierophant, I am the teacher of universal law. The Hierophant is the guardian and custodian of religious knowledge and spiritual beliefs. A religious figure or guru, which means teacher, preserving and passing knowledge on intact. The masterful conduit of spiritual energy, he is admired and acknowledged as the teacher of God's law, the keeper of spiritual wisdom passed down through the millennia. He alone has access to this knowledge, and as the spiritual authority, is a master of ceremonies, choosing wisely who is initiated into the ways of spirit and who in spiritual governance. I have depicted the Hierophant as part man, part wolf. Probably the most misunderstood of all wild animals, wolves are seen merely as killing machines that hunt in packs, a scourge to be rid of, so much so that now most species are considered endangered. Wolves, in fact, are extremely gregarious. They mate for life, have strong family bonds, a clear clan structure, and deflect conflict where possible. They don't just argue for fun. Though their clans are highly organized, they are truly free spirits. A symbol of the night, seen howling at the moon, they represent the lonely path of journeying within to learn and to discover our inner power and strength. The wolf nature also expresses the idiom of biblical origin used to describe the deceptiveness of appearance, a kind of nature masking danger, the wolf in sheep's clothing. After all, religion has been a double-edged sword, a source for conflict and a source for peace. There's the Libra and Mercury, and Libra Sun. It's like both and, right? It's good and bad. It has both. Religion has been at the heart of most violent conflicts, especially in the past 2 decades, and is worn as a badge of identity, fueling or abating conflict for political ends. The Hierophant, the channeler of male spiritual energy, can indeed bare his teeth. The flower of life, a flower-like pattern with six-fold symmetry like a hexagon, floats above his head. A universal sacred geometry depicting the creation of existence containing all the essential building blocks of the universe that we call the Platonic solids, is found all over the world in most religions and various ancient civilizations. It could be seen in temples within the forbidden city of China, in ancient synagogues in Israel, in the Buddhist temples of India and Japan, while the oldest known examples are believed to be those present in the Temple of Osiris in Abydos, Egypt. Temples that have borne witness to the visceral rituals and ceremonies of sacred sound and sight, scented aromas, touch and taste, have been used to reinforce the stories, doctrines, and values of a religion. To serve God, one is actively encouraged to live and pray either in an enclosed spiritual community or live in the secular world while choosing to pray/meditate and meet regularly in the house of God, establishing a strong social structure and the idea of, quote, belonging and, quote, contributing to a bigger group or tribe. The Hierophant card calls you to investigate the existing sets of beliefs and systems that are already in place within your environment and see if they hold anything of value for you. It's ironic because earlier, not very long ago, I pulled Initiation and Ceremony, I think, as my card for the Galactic Heritage deck with Haley, and the card she pulled was Beliefs. So once again, beliefs and how we initiate. Through what? Religions, through, ceremony. This is a very Hierophant card. Like, how do we exoterically show where our beliefs are at? What we think is true. So the Hierophant, the High Priest, caretaker of spiritual knowledge, teaching others what you know. That's very Sagittarius moon, right? And Mercury as well as Sun and Libra, kind of exchanging ideas, air with the both ends of the balance of the scales. Awakening to a greater understanding of the world and paying attention to the details. Very resonant already. So let's go ahead and see what else we got going on. Card-wise, whoa, we've got the 9 of Air, which is actually, I think, on the back of this deck as the card. This kind of looks like what happens when you do psychedelics or when you're totally turning on to your mind's eye. And yeah, it is on the back of the deck, the Dreams of Gaia deck. So the 9 of Air, page 212. Let's see what this is all about. Nine of Air, keywords: self-awareness, universal consciousness, understanding, insight, vision, imagination, fantasy, and creativity. Key phrases: open to possibilities. Possibilities are infinite. Know thyself and know the universe. What dwells within you dwells within nature. Belief creates. All that exists was first imagined. Fantasy is the birthplace of reality. You are born to create and imagine your fears away. So very resonant already with this card, the Hierophant. This is getting into kind of the magic of the mind in terms of creation in an imaginal way. Let me kind of make this a little darker so you can see what's going on. Will this help? Kind of ish. Whatever. So, the 9 of Air represents the imagination and our connection to the universal consciousness or universal mind. It signifies the importance of knowing thyself. For in truly knowing thyself, one will both know the universe and the power of the void, capital V. Ask yourself, what if the universe we dwell within is actually the mind of another being? What if the universe is in reality a God mind, and we the creation of another being's imagination? What if, within our minds, there exists universes within universes, where creatures that we dream of and imagine dwell in the same way we do here upon the earth, and within their minds are the more universes? Like fractals, where the same pattern repeats and creates, our minds contain a universe, and within the universe are creatures and beings who also have universes within their minds. The universe in which we dwell is one of billions existing within the mind that is yet another universe. The pattern repeats in both directions exponentially, creating an infinite number of universes and realities. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Now, ponder a moment. What if we looked within and discovered that within the realms of our minds, we create new worlds and realities with our beliefs? Once again, this is very resonant, right? The High Priestess, or the High Priest, rather, the exoteric, the Hierophant, is about belief structures and what you think is true. This is very much in line with the Sagittarius moon. We choose to believe in something, and a new world that mirrors that belief is born. We stop believing in something, and that world either evolves with our beliefs or ceases to be completely. Universes overlap, are born, and die, forever bound to the life and beliefs of the God mind that created them. What if billions of lives were dependent upon our belief for their very existence? Would it not be wise to believe with understanding and knowledge? Would that not create a universe that is a little more constant and conducive to life? What if we are the only beings within the universe because of the God mind in which we dwell as a young mind with limited exposure, and at this time only believes in our existence? Pythagoras is credited with saying, "Man, know thyself, and you will know the universe in which gods dwell." Simply put, he believed that to know oneself was to know the universe and the power of the gods, and he is correct. Everything man has within our physical reality that is not born of the natural world was first imagined by man. The television, the phone in your hand, the laptop on your desk, the movies you watch, the car you drive, the languages we use. Everything that man has created was first imagined by their inventor. Moreover, when these brave souls voiced their desire to create their new and strange contraptions, they were seen as crazy, eccentric, and foolish. They were told that what they wanted to create was fantasy. At one time or another, everything we have in our present reality was once dreamed to be an impossible fantasy, and yet now these things exist, and we take their existence for granted. This is the power of the mind, and the mind's true potential has not yet even begun to be understood or known. All we do know is that the only limit to the mind and what it can do is one that we, the individual, place upon it. Our beliefs create the reality. That's the whole point of the Hierophants. Like, what do you believe? What do you think is true? Because that's going to become your reality, and you're consciously and unconsciously driving that situation. All we do know is that the only I said that already. We are only limited by our imagination or lack of it. If you don't see something as ever being possible, you're not dreaming big enough, to quote Inception, right? You're not dreaming big enough, darling. Like, expand your imaginable ability, your creativity. So we are only limited by our imagination, and sometimes we dream and fantasize into only one way. It's like there's other options. Don't just focus on that one option, right? Or a lack of imagination. By looking within, learning and understanding the mind in the complex manner in which it controls our lives, and how it has taken our life experiences and used them to influence all we do and all that we are, we can choose to unlearn some beliefs, change our thinking, and embrace a new, less restrictive way of thinking. You can become the God mind that you are, and within your mind, you can imagine and make what you imagine into a reality. That's the true. Like, this is where you're getting a real sermon from the Hierophant right now. We live in a society that admires innovation and creativity, and yet, paradoxically, because everything is a paradox, both and, reality is hypocritical in that sense inherently. So we say creativity, innovation, we love it. Paradoxically, society fears it, and at times actively seeks to destroy the desire to create. We may be exposed to teachers who punish those who ask questions and challenge the answers because they know there is a better way. We might be ridiculed by family and friends when we use our imaginations and speak of things that are deemed to be fantastical or unbelievable. But again, all that exists in our present reality was once fantasy and dwelt only in the mind. We may find that we are repeatedly trained to reject creative endeavors as a waste of time and effort. The Nine of Air represents the importance of knowing your mind, understanding the beliefs and thoughts that limit and restrict you, and freeing your imagination. Like Morpheus says, free your mind, right? Like, that's the whole point. You think that's air you're breathing? That's a belief you've inherited or perpetuating, right? That's the whole point. Now it is time to embrace innovation and creation. It is time to step into the realms of the unknown and imagined, to enter the void, which is a really interesting movie visually about DMT and death. If you've never seen Enter the Void, you should scope it. And it's in Tokyo, I think, too, so it's interesting. Where your imagination is most powerful, the void, and bring what you find there to life. You are born of a universal consciousness. All is one, right? The one is in the all. So we are part of the universal consciousness. You are capable of greatness, but all too often you may have been punished for seeking it. Nonetheless, it is time to let go of any unconscious bias against creativity and embrace it as an expression of human power and ingenuity that it is. You are as powerful as your mind allows you to be. You are as creative as your mind allows you to be. Don't be afraid to embrace your beautiful imagination. The void in which it resides is the womb that gives birth to the universe that is teeming with life and possibilities. To imagine and create is to make divine magic. You are born of a creative universal consciousness. You were born to create, right? And that's the true. Coming hot. The biggest truth is, Joanne, I'll answer your question about the decks. I think you mean this one's Dreams of Gaia Tarot deck, which I was gifted nicely. This is David Bowie's Starman. And I've got a few other decks I'll pull out, but I'll list them in the comments. So what we're getting today with the Sun in Libra, with Mercury in Libra, with the Moon in Sagittarius, we're getting balanced truth. Like, are we deluding ourselves? Are we causing blocks, which is fine ultimately, in our creativity process? Are our beliefs limiting us? So we're like, oh, I've just got to be this. And it's like, you can be anything and more, right? It reminds me a little of actually the movie Captain Marvel. The recent Marvel movie, Captain Marvel, where she's like, she had limited her memory. She had blocks in her memory to prevent her from knowing her true identity. So she was living a life that was a certain way because of her beliefs. And then when she became more aware of the imaginal opportunities therein, she expanded, right? So the truth from on high, the spiritual truth, Sagittarius moon, is that we are dreamers in a dream, dreaming the dream simultaneously in it as much as creators of it, co-creating it, right? So sometimes, your beliefs are helpful, and sometimes your beliefs are limiting. More often than not, they're embryos essentially for growth. You don't want to stay in a fetus position forever, or in utero forever. As much as you don't want, you don't think that your beliefs are it, right? Like, you think that's air you're breathing, Neo? Like, no, it's more than that. But he had convinced himself that was the case, and he lived in that universe. Number 3, change, Andromeda. We just changed the season into Libra season. Fall is, the leaves are starting to change colors here in Colorado. I know it happens here a little earlier than other places. We actually had like a foot or two of snow in September, early September, so that was kind of crazy. Before 9/11. So anyway, Andromeda 3, change. And what are we talking about? Changing our perspectives to change our reality, right? The truth is, the Hierophant is, it's all a game and we get to program it. So make sure you're kind of coming from a place of consciousness. This is on page number 42. Life, the meaning, and the universe's meaning and all that stuff. Kind of a Hitchhiker's Guide, number 42. Number 3, Andromeda, change, parallel timeline. In physical reality, change is the only constant. We spend so much time and energy trying to keep things the same that we miss the profound experience that change brings. That's why holding on loosely. It's like if you hold on too much, you'll miss out on the whole fucking parade. Andromedans live in a very unusual reality paradigm, that of constant change. The change is so dramatic that the only way to orient yourself in reality is to have a strong inner compass based on consciousness. You have pulled this card because either you have a strong connection with Andromedans, you love change, or you need to connect with Andromedan energy and let go of the fear of change. This is your next lesson. Commentary. It may seem odd that the energy of a galaxy outside of ours is being utilized in this deck. The reason for this is that you can see yourself more clearly when there is a contrasting idea that can serve as a comparison. Haley and I were just experiencing that very recently. The energy of the Andromeda galaxy provides this contrast to help us see ourselves more clearly. Within the template of experience in our reality lies the issues of polarity. This is a primary theme we must explore on our way back to wholeness. Wholeness is the truth, and then we've fallen into the illusion of polarity. It serves a function, but we're waking up from that, I imagine, at some levels. This is a primary theme we must explore on our way back to wholeness. In addition, we have a tendency to like things to stay the same so that we can feel safe and secure. This part of our nature is based on ego needs, and until we transcend that need, we will always stay stuck. Living in Andromedan reality requires us to create an anchor to reality in our own consciousness rather than in the outside world. This is an important concept that actually has to do with how humans will eventually master space travel. It is also profoundly connected to spiritual awakening. Thus, Andromedans act as masters and guides for our evolution, teaching us to move from polarity and the fear of change to integration and the embracing of changing nature of reality. If this card appears in your spread, look closely at your relationship to change. Are you addicted to it? Are you always just like, I gotta go to this, I gotta do that, no, and you're not sitting still and being still? Or do you fear it? Or you're like, it's got to be this way, and if I don't have it this way, I can't have it at all. Fuck it, we're going to one pole or the other usually. Perhaps it is time to forge a new relationship with one of the only constants of life, change, right? And that is a truth of the Hierophant, right? Where it's like, the only constant is change, right? And our minds are adaptive. Our imagination is the dream in which we mutate through. So embrace change. Try to understand your relationship to it. Are you clinging to things for security? Are you clinging to freedom over stability? Are you clinging to stability over freedom? Like, there's a polarity here, right? And there's all sorts of ways to cut the pie, so it's not one is better than the other. But at the same time, we have proclivities based off of our charts. Hit me up for a reading if you want to know thyself. Of course, I pulled this cycles card, hair. We have proclivities and we can play into those, but don't attach too much to those things because that's not ultimately who you are. When I give readings, I tell people, yo, you're the sun and you're coming through a stained glass window. The stained glass window is awesome and it has its own attributes that are cool and stuff, but basically, that's not who you are. It's who you are right now in this illusion, right? Cycles is what we're getting. The hair. And we just entered a new cycle with the fall equinox in the northern hemisphere, the spring equinox in the southern hemisphere, and into a new season, Libra. right? Changes, cycles happening. And that's what we're getting told in these other cards. So, hare, cycles. Follow the cycles of nature and you will be rarely disappointed as energy travels in cycles. That's what frequency is. When someone's like, raise your frequency, frequency is like, it's about cycles per second and stuff like that, right? It's cycles. It's always cycles. Seek balance. That's the yin yang. There is a time and a season for everything. There's a time to be stone cold sober. There's a time to do drugs and alcohol. There's a time to be a virgin. There's a time to be sexually active. There's a time to be alive. There's a time to be dead. There's a time for everything, right? Cycles. There's a time and a season for everything. Plants cannot blossom all the time, so be patient. Mythos. Esther, the goddess of spring, and her hare were walking at dawn on a crisp morning at the beginning of the season. The morning was very beautiful, yet still cold, as the winter snows had begun to melt. As they walked, they came upon a small bird dying in the freezing but melting snow. Distressed at its condition, Aoster picked up the tiny soul and tried to revive and warm it, but its life was too far gone to save. Feeling love and pity for the creature, Aoster transformed the bird back into an egg, giving it a chance to be born again. She placed the egg upon the earth, and it hatched. Out came another hare, a mate for the companion, and 3 of them continued on their journey. So very Libra Sun here, where it's like, oh, we'll find even Stevens, 2 hares, yay. The hare has been part of the mythos of every culture in those countries they have made their home. Hares are very commonly linked with the lunar cycle. If you look up, you'll see the shape of a hare on the moon. And in stories of fertility and love, the constellation Lepus is a hare. The animal. Hares and jackrabbits are part of the genus Lepus. They are found in Africa, Eurasia, Japan, and North America. Hares, in particular the European hare, are incredibly athletic animals and are able to move very quickly. They have been timed at over 65 kilometers an hour with leaps of up to 1 meter at a time. Their speed is part of the defense against predators. Hares are well known for their pre-mating and mating behaviors, which is why they are often seen as being symbols of fertility and fecundity. In spring, hares can be seen wrestling and punching each other, rising up on their hind legs and acting aggressively. Oh, the joys of love. This radical behavior has been demonstrated not just in males, but also breeding females. The saying, mad as a March hare, relates to this somewhat frenzied time, spring in the northern hemisphere, but right now this would be happening in Australia or whatever, you know. The European hare has very long breeding cycles of 8 months, from January to August, with continual cycles of reproduction until the hiatus and breeding. The male's genitals reduce in size, and no mating occurs from September to December. By the peak reproductive period, March, some females may be pregnant with up to 3 fetuses. Contrary to popular belief, hares generally do not give birth to or raise their young in burrows, instead creating a nest of grasses called a form. The young are born with eyes open, so they are ready as ever to hide from predators. Hare magic. Hare magic has always been linked to the lunar cycle and the fertility cycle of women. For those who wish to achieve a pregnancy, call in the hare magic to help you conceive or balance your cycle. So, menstrual stuffs. For those who are not interested in reproduction, hare magic can be used to quicken up the pace of an outcome or to increase your connection with other cycles. Symbology is hare on the moon, dancing hares, running hares. Team Rabbit Hole approved, for sure. Status of least concern. They're everywhere and we're not worried about them, right? So the truth of the matter, the Hierophant, what it's telling us is there's cycles, there's times, there's the imagination is witness to it all. So we're a part of an imagination called winter. We're a part of an imagination called summer. It may look different in the tropics. It may look different in towards the poles, and depending on hemispheres. But the point is, we're in a polarized reality, a dream of polarity that's constantly, toroidally, dynamically fluctuating between the two. Change is the only constant, folks. And being okay with that. That's why Bruce Lee's like, be water, my friend. Like, why? Because water flows. Water is not just like freaking out about being ice or steam or, you know what I mean? Like it can change form in terms of the, like that way, state, solid, liquid, gas, but it also moves. If there's a rock in a river, it moves around it. If there's an obstruction in its process, it doesn't look at it as an obstruction. It's adaptive. It's changeable, right? And what we really need to know is cycles. So know your times, know where you're around, be aware of the situation you're in, and be able to adapt change to those situations. Use your imagination. Think outside the box, as they say. Think of a box and be inside of it sometimes. It's all, Saturn's cube. Imagine that, right? The whole point of the Hierophant is to tell us of a truth that's deeper and more profound than anything that can be uttered, and it's trying to utter it through language. It's trying to show you a truth. Sagittarius moon, right? Where it's like, I've seen the light. I've seen the burning bush. Let me tell you about it. And that's going to be different for everybody. Everybody has to have their own kind of religious experience. Even if they're atheists, they have a moment of zen or clarity or however you want to put that, right? But we're imaginal beings in the mind, capital M in some weird way. That's the kind of Brahma mind thing. Or in Christianity, Jonathan Edwards was like, we're machinations in the imagination of God. Like there's all sorts of ways to look at it, right? Change is the constant. That's Andromeda. So embrace it. Know your relation to it. Like you might be very all about change to the point it's a detriment. You're just overly changing. As a double Gemini, I tend to change too much. I'm just like tick, 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 tick. It's like, whoa, constancy would be better for me. Some people are so constant and regular in their cycles that they need to like have a vacation. It's like all work and play, no play makes Jack a dull boy. You're gonna go kill your family. Like have a moment in the cycle where you reset, right? So all these things. So interesting, so synchronistic. I love the cards. The cards love me. It's great. So, we've got Le Corbusier. And this is showing, even in the visual, very Libra, like yin and yang, right? Balance and changes of growth. And he's trying to like show a schematic of reality here, it seems. So, Le Corbusier, what do you got for us, bro? Here he is. So this is a Swiss artist. Young Charles Edouard Généré Gris rebranded himself Le Corbusier, or Corbu, and boasted that his architecture could stave off class revolution. What a bold claim. Sagittarius moon stuff. It's like, I have a truth that will save the world. Very Hierophant. It's like, hey, if everybody just does what I say, it'll work. With pioneering use of concrete, and by the way, the Pantheon, the Pantheon, is it, or the Parthenon? I've been there in Italy. I'm forgetting which one it's called. I think it's, I'm forgetting now. I conflate the two because one's in Greece and one's in Rome. But this thing with an oculus, it's an eye from above. That's made of concrete. It's lasted for 2,000 years. So concrete lasts a long time. With pioneering uses of concrete, Corbu created high-density complexes designed as microcities for inhabitants, such as Cité Radius, Radiant City, in Marseille, with public facilities integrated among residences. In his life, and that's some Libra sun shit. It's like you have your private space, you have your public space. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, right? It's like allowing for change. It's like you can be a recluse and a hermit if you want, or you can go be a social, like, whore in the commons or whatever, right? In his lifetime, Corbu realized masterful private villas and churches, but what he proselytized, and proselytizing would be the shadow of the Hierophant, where it's like, I have a truth and you got to drink my Kool-Aid, and extensively wrote about, was new urbanism. What does that include? Using the imagination, right, for changes in what urbanism was, like city design, basically, cycles, right? He's like, okay, cities have hit a point, and now we've got to kind of reconstitute what this might mean to be in a city. New urbanism. Today, some consider Corbu a genius, others an ideologue dabbling in fascism. That would be the Hierophant energy. It's like, I have a truth. Wow, look at that light that guy's holding. He's like, I have a truth, and I'm going to burn you with that truth. And if you don't believe my truth, I'll kill you. That can be the Hierophant shadow. Sagittarius moon shadow. Corbu's rebelliousness is underscored by his death, the result of going skinny dipping with a bad heart against his doctor's orders. So, I wonder if he imagined, could he ever imagine that's how he would die, right? He's like, oh, my dream, I'm going to die because I rebel against the doctor's orders. Well, you were only in this life for so long, so the changes are constant. The cycle of life to death, and they're back again, as the Hobbit would say. But the truth of the matter, the Hierophant, is that he lived his authentic reality, even to his own detriment. He did what he wanted to his death, right? So, sign your name in concrete is Le Corbusier's advice, right? And that's very much like the 10 Commandments or Hammurabi's Code, or like, thus says the Lord, kind of sign your name in concrete. What is the truth? Let it be written. Let it be done. That's this kind of masculine, spiritual energy of the Hierophant, right? With this, at the sun in Libra and the moon in Sagittarius, we're coming to big truths, and we're dealing with those truths emotionally with others, in relationship, in how we act with our environment, etc. Right? Let's imagine well. Like there's more than can be seen in your dream. More than you could ever. I'm gonna butcher the quotes. Like, your philosophies are limited, and the reality is more than you could ever dream. Horatio, or whatever Shakespeare said. So it's like we're dreaming this dream, but we tend to like have beliefs, Hierophant, where there's a truth and we live by those truths, and that's fine. But just realize that's not all it is. Like your truth is not the truth, right? The truth is there are an infinite number of ways of looking at the thing, and it's all good. We're in the mind of a mind, in a sense. Being minds, minding and creating. Imagineers imagining in the imagination of an imaginer, if you want to look at it like that. Change is the constant. Change is the only thing that really is constant. Cycles. Nothing stays the same. Particles phase in and out of quantum reality. Cycles of seasons. Spins of a sun around a planet like ours. Right? Like even the wobble of the tilt of the earth. Those are cycles. Your heartbeat. Like sine waves shows frequencies, right? It's like, oh, here's a high amplitude, here's a low amplitude, here's the median. Ooh, wow, cycles. And that frequency, like just like this. I mean, I'm making the drawing, but it's like, look, wow, there's cycles, there's waves, there's changes, high and low, and variations, even that, right? So, like Corbusier is saying, sign your name in concrete. I think we should be kind of committing, taking seriously what our truth is. Being open and imagining what could be, but holding on loosely. So it's kind of paradox, which I know sounds hypocritical at times to some people, but it's like it is what it is. You are creating your life. You're creating your dream. Like you're in the cockpit and you're directing the film simultaneously. Be willing to kind of ad-lib with the cast and crew and the set design. Like don't be such a fascist that it's like, if it doesn't go this way, we burn down the set and I fire all the actors and I go and cut my wrists. Like that's not a good look. But at the same time, you want to have a vision. If you don't have anything going on, which can sometimes be the point of it, like a jazz improvisation session or something. If you have no structure, there's a cycle within that, right? Cavensite. What it is. Cavensite is so you can quantumly entangle with this. You don't have to own this. It's really pretty and interesting looking. Cool. What it is. Cavensite is a calcium vanadium silicate. Its name is an acronym. Look for it. It's there. So if we say calcium vanadium silicate, Cavensite, there it is. Its vivid color is next level, electric blue. The best Cavensite hails from India. It's a go-to stone for those looking to channel messages from on high. That would be the Hierophant card, channeling the truth from on high, and I will be the conduit and teacher of that truth, right? Channeling messages from on high, or exploring the possibilities of supernatural communication. Exploring the possibilities of the imagination in terms of what? Communication. Air, Libra, Mercury and Libra. Like we're here to communicate with ourselves and others right now. Who needs it? Storytellers, soothsayers, healers, therapists, and psychics. Where to put it? Wherever you translate inspiration into the written and spoken word. I can't make this shit up, guys. That's what the Hierophant is. It's taking inspiration of spirit and bringing it and concretizing it. Writing your name in concrete, as Corbusier would say. Whoops, I just dropped a card. Writing your name in concrete. Writing the truth down, right? That's what. Who needs it? The people who are trying to write down the epiphanies. Where to put it? Wherever you translate inspiration into the written or spoken word. When to use it? When it's time to speak clearly and straight from the heart. When you want to get weird, ask Cavensite to make you a conduit for messages mysterious and eternal. That is the point of today. Being a conduit of what? The imaginer. Like being like, I am willing to be a vessel and imagine through the imaginer. Like that's the energy. That's what we're dealing with. Sagittarius moon is saying, I feel good about this emotionally. I want to be used by spirit. And then the Mercury sun and the Libra sun and Mercury in Libra is saying, I want to exchange these ideas with others. I don't want to just hide it under a bushel. I want to show others. When to use it? I already said that. So this is about expanding your consciousness. And although I am a proponent largely about psychedelics and stuff, there's ways to expand your consciousness beyond psychedelics. Expanding your consciousness with the truth. Expanding your consciousness in terms of what you believe to be true. You know? That can be a very mind-expanding thing. Listen to some Bashar channelings. That stuff's gnarly. Every time I hear that, I feel like I'm tripping. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so obvious, but so like, how have I gotten... Or Abraham Hicks. Or Lao Tzu and the I Ching. Like there's many avenues. Like meditate, see where your own imagination goes. You'll be surprised with the truth you come to, expanding your consciousness, but also bringing that imagination and concretizing it in such a way that it's written in stone, right? As Corbusier was doing. Sign your name in concrete. Tell people what you're really thinking. Be willing to change your opinions about things. Beliefs come and go. One point in your life, you might be like, I love fucking hamburgers, and now you're like, I'm a vegan, and that's a change, right? Aren't you glad you allowed yourself the permission slip to believe a new belief? cycles, right? So sometimes you might be like, fuck it, I'm going to be totally sober and abstinent. And sometimes you're like, I want to like fuck everything that moves. Whatever. Cycles. Try to be loving and kind to each other, but expand your consciousness. Your consciousness is bigger. Ultimately, consciousness is all, and our situatedness is particular. So the flower of life is like the fundament, and then it kind of bleeds through, and we have particular aspects that talk about our permission slips and beliefs and all this kind of stuff within the dream. So we're like, oh, I'm this person with these ideas. And this card was saying the 9 of air was saying, oh, your imaginations might create characters that have their own imaginations, and it's this infinite regression fractal. Like, that's kind of what's going on. So it's like, make sure that you're being a steward of your truth, and make sure you're still being, like, compromise doesn't mean always bad things, but it's like other people have truth just as equally as strongly as yours, right? We're mirroring our own experience largely too. So be willing to imagine big, change, maybe. Sometimes change means not changing, right? It's like, I changed too much. I need to sit still for a season. And then sometimes it's like, I've been sitting still for a long time. It's time to go from winter to spring, right? The cycles are always there. They're evident, and that's how it works. It's just cycles within cycles, wheels within wheels, as Ezekiel would say. Sign your name in concrete. Try to be who you are fully, but be who you are fully, holding on loosely. Paradox. Am I hypocritical? I don't know. But you see what I'm saying. I don't think I'm being a hypocrite, because it's like, you're both. You're both a permanent moment of the now, and you're anything you could imagine. So you're both a solid truth, and like, this is what the God thus says me, and I will not budge. And you're also like anything you choose to be. So this guy could be any number of beliefs being exercised. Change is the constant. Enjoy the cycles. They're ever present, but still be who you are. Sign your name in concrete. Like, make it official. Expand your consciousness through Cav Insight, so we have the ability to, especially with the moon in Sagittarius, to channel in higher truths, and then hopefully bring them into a balance between our mind and our heart, between our body and our soul, right? Like between the things. Does that make sense? Hopefully it makes sense. Let's go ahead and play some music, shall we? So, hopefully you all are doing, whoops, this is hard with 2 devices. Hopefully you all are doing well. And I guess I'll just use this. Will this hold it? Oh yeah, I've got to do this. So, we'll put this here, and bada bing, bada boom. Cool. Let's play some music. I've got to plug it in. Because I didn't know if I was going to play a song or jam, and I've opted to jam today. So, with the card being the Hierophant and the clarifier being the 9 of air, with the moon in Sagittarius and the sun in Libra, we have the ability to beautifully create harmonious truth. All truth is true in a weird way. I know that can enrage some people, but it's like, if it can be thought, if it can be imagined, it's a thing. Even if you don't choose to do it, like cannibalism is real, whether I do it or not. You know? Sobriety is a thing, whether I do it or not. All truth is true. So, let's play some music. It's the Hierophant, huh? So, what up, Sharon? So, with the Hierophant, we have truth coming in. It might be mysterious and dark and weird. It might be overpowering. It's something that is coming from an imagination. So, it can almost be anything in a weird way. And then we concretize that truth in a physicalized way. That's the Hierophant, taking the spiritual and making it known phallically, like projecting it out. Not just hiding it in to be like, I know my truth, this is great. That's High Priestess. That's more like, okay, I've got my truth. Now you see what I see. Like that's this energy, right? And with the moon in Sagittarius, we're going to feel emotionally drawn to doing that. With the sun in Libra and Mercury in Libra, hopefully we're doing it in a balanced way and not just like, slicing the throats of people who disagree with us. We're in an imaginal situation. We're in a dream, guys. We're in a dream of what? Change, dynamos, toroidal flux. It's amazing. Cycles within cycles, right? The hair. It's amazing because there's seasons for everything. If you want to be depressed, there's a season for that. If you want to be joyful, there's a season for that. If you want to be silent, there's a season for that. If you want to be loud, there's a season for that, right? Sign your name in concrete, like Corbusier is saying. So make yourself known. Make your position known. Be willing to adapt in the dream and change and not just hold on to this and always only be this, because that's really kind of your ego talking more than anything. The only constant is change. But while you're there in the changing moments, like go hard in the paint. Literally draw your name in the concrete. Like make yourself known. Make your position known. So let it be written. So let it be done. In what? Stone. Right? And ultimately, Cavinsight is telling us to expand our consciousness. So we want to rise into a higher level of understanding what truth is while holding on simultaneously, knowing that many truths are happening in the dream. That is the ultimate truth. And that our truth can actually change, which is beautiful. But if we're always kind of flighty and don't have a truth, we need to learn and stand up for it. We need to figure out what it is. If we're kind of in this place where we're not dreaming and believing that anything more is possible, it's going to be a very drab reality. It's going to be a very North Korea kind of situation. Or you can have an America where it's like, oh my gosh, anything is possible. You can make, if you can dream it, you can build it. I'm not saying America is the perfect place for that now, but that's the idea of what it was all about originally. So change is constant, just like the tectonic plate shift and Pangea turns into everything we know now. It'll all go back to a Pangea maybe at some point. Who knows? Cycles happen. Enjoy the fucking ride. Kind of commit, I guess you could say, to your position, right? But hold on loosely to your truth. And don't proselyte. The shadow of Sagittarius moon is running around cutting off people's heads that don't agree with you, like infidels or whatever. It's like, all right, that's cool that you believe that, bro, or chica, but like chill on it and like enjoy the ride because we're all participating in this, right? Change with the times, change with the cycles, change with yourself while being a self, embodied. Raise your hand. Write your name in the concrete and expand your consciousness. And I think we're all kind of being initiated into higher states of awareness that have always been there, but we're becoming more and more finely tuned to it. So it's an interesting time, definitely. Hopefully that resonated. If you want a reading, hit me up. Today we have Molly Wright coming on the podcast. She's an animator who's really cool, has her own tarot deck. She's got some really cool high magical animations out. It's almost like Powderpuff Girls meets Manly P. Hall or something. It's pretty insane witchy stuff. So cool. And like I said, if you want a reading, hit me up. Otherwise, enjoy your Wednesday. Tap into the energy that exists, which is like about balance and harmonizing. Libra sun with truth spiritually coming in hot emotionally. That's what's going to make you feel good. Like find your truth today, and be willing to adapt and change. There's things that I always believed would be true for me that may not always be true. Wow, who'd have thunk? My rigid belief structures didn't allow me to see a bigger picture, and now my belief structures are expanding, so I can see that as an option as well as other options. You should do that too. Enjoy the fucking ride, and I'll catch you on the flip side.